Recording in progress.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to this council meeting on Tuesday, October 3rd, 2023. We'll go ahead and call the meeting to order, and we'll ask Clementine to do roll call vote and share with the public how they can participate with public comments.
Councilmember Barber.
Present.
Councilmember Garcia is absent. Councilmember Hoffa.
Here.
Councilmember Smith.
Present.
And Mayor Williamson.
And I'm here.
Sorry, the instructions. Sorry about that. For the safe attendance of our public meetings, wearing a mask is recommended and encouraged. Please keep your phones and devices in the council chamber muted in order to prevent audio interference with our meeting. And there are two ways you can participate remotely in today's meeting. You may join us using the Zoom app on your computer or mobile device, and you can also call into the Zoom meeting. To join the meeting on Zoom on your computer, smartphone, or telephone, use the link or phone number on the agenda at isearchmonterey.org. An up-to-date version of the Zoom software must be used. To call in by telephone, dial toll-free 833-568-8864, then enter meeting ID 160-772-9333 pound. And if you're prompted to enter participant ID, press pound. Detailed instructions on using and updating Zoom are available at monterey.org/public meetings. To make a public comment using the Zoom app, you can virtually raise your hand by pressing the raise hand button at the bottom of your screen. If you dialed in by phone, raise your hand by dialing *9 and then unmute yourself when called upon by dialing *6. You must do both. Public commenters will be muted until it is their turn to speak. Please stay within the time limit established for the meeting, and a timer will be shown on the screen. If you're connected live on Zoom, the timer is accurate with no delay. And this meeting is also streamed live on the city's YouTube account at youtube.com/City of Monterey with about 10 seconds delay, and on Comcast Channel 25 with up to 90 seconds delay. And we look forward to receiving public comment.
Clementine, you are amazing. Having to do that every single time. It's a lot, so I appreciate you. And now that Councilmember Barber is back in the States, I'll actually ask you to lead us off in the Pledge of Allegiance.
All right, my pledge. The flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, for one nation under God, indivisible, in liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, and welcome back.
Thank you.
All right, and next we will go to presentations, and we'll pass it back to Clementine to read the procedures for speaking on presentation items.
Yes, here are those procedures. You are welcome to offer your comments after being recognized by the mayor. The council may limit the time allocated to each speaker. The mayor will request that persons wishing to speak line up at the podium or use the raise hand function in Zoom to determine the number of persons interested in speaking on each presentation item. The amount of time for public comment on each presentation item will be determined based on the number of persons interested in speaking. The maximum time allotted for public comment is 30 minutes on each item. In exceptional circumstances and when necessary to ensure full opportunity for public input, the mayor may, with the city council's consent, adjust the amount of time allowed for public input and/or the time allotted to each speaker.
Perfect. And with that, we will go on to our presentations. Item number 1 is a presentation on Blue Zones project, and we'll pass it to Hans for staff presentation.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Tonight we will hear a presentation of Blue Zones project. They have been operating in our city for, I want to say, 21 it started. And so not just our city, but their headquarters or their office building is here in our city. And they're working across the county with a lot of good projects and had a lot of positive impact. And today we have Tanya Roos showing us a little bit more about Blue Zones projects. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Uslar. Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor, City Council members, city staff, members of the public. My name is Tanya Rose, and just appreciating the opportunity to be here today to share a bit more, thank you, about the work of Blue Zones project, both in the great city of Monterey, across the peninsula cities, and really countywide. So we run based on project years. So our project years run June through May. So currently we're actually in project year 3. So this is a little bit of a look back, and I'll also update you in terms of the progress we've made thus far. Let's see. Okay. As most of you hopefully know, Blue Zones is based on the research of National Geographic explorer Dan Buettner, who traveled all around the world finding the places where people live long, healthy, and happy lives. There is a new Netflix documentary out there. If you haven't watched it yet, well worth your time. It does a great job profiling the original research that our project is based on. So what was discovered in those 5 original Blue Zones are what we call the Power 9. These are principles that are helping folks live long, healthy, and happy lives, roughly grouped into 4 major categories: moving our bodies, having the right outlook, thinking about our mental health, eating wisely, so thinking about how, what, where we eat, and connecting in community. So not rocket science, but certainly things that it seems like our Western or modern society is trying to push us farther and farther from. So what our project does is it takes those principles and brings them to communities across the US. As you see here, 4.5 million lives have been impacted. I believe we're in at 12 or 13 states at this point in time. So lots and lots of communities and individuals across North America engaging in the work. Blue Zones Project comes to local communities thanks to local sponsors. So we are very fortunate here in Monterey County to be supported by Salinas Valley Health, Taylor Farms, and Montage Health. These 3 entities believe in the efficacy and the impact of our work here and in the outcomes, the public health outcomes that come from a full application, of, which is what we're doing here in Monterey County. So thanks to them, all of our work is 100% free and available for any resident in Monterey County to engage. And then it's important to note that Blue Zones Project parent company is a company called ShareCare. So that's a digital health company that's based in Atlanta. And so, you know, certainly all of our work is covered through the HIPAA procedures and policies that ShareCare upholds. So everything, you know, all the data that is collected is kept private and respected across the board in all the work we do. So in terms of the change model, Blue Zones operates on what we call the life radius. So this is a 10 to 15 mile radius around where an individual might live, work, pray, play, recreate, you know, do all the things. And so what Blue Zones tries to do is modify those spaces and places to make healthy choices available by default, really. So we do that by engaging and empowering people. We look at the places where people spend their time, and then the heavy lift, which is the policy work, which is really thinking about transforming the environment where folks live. So a bit more into each of these. I know you all have received this deck. There's a lot of information on the slide, and hey, there's Mr. Mayor with one of our other local celebrities, the Beast, which is a great character to help educate about the prevalence of diabetes and prediabetes, which is unfortunately quite widespread in this community. But yes, that was at one of our events this past winter. We're close to about 7,000 individuals having engaged with the Peninsula Cities project thus far. Well over a third of them are residents of Monterey, so I thought that would be relevant for you all to hear. But we offer story speeches, workshops, cooking classes, getting folks out walking, actively volunteering. For instance, we just had a beach cleanup down at Del Monte Beach and a park cleanup at Laguna Grande. So lots of ways to get individuals engaged and active in their communities. We also have several participating organizations. I just highlighted the ones in the city of Monterey here for you all to see. And then we work with places. So thinking about our work sites. So where are our major employers and how can we encourage them and support them in adopting health and well-being best practices? So we have actually now more than 12 in Peninsula Cities, and the ones listed here are in the city of Monterey. So we're proud that a couple of our big hospitality spaces like the Plaza and the Portola have gotten on board, of course, Montage Health, CCVNA, and others. We're also working with several more towards approval. And if the good city of Monterey would be interested, we'd be happy to speak with you all about how to support, probably already support the good work you all are doing with employee health and well-being. In terms of schools, there are now 6 approved schools in Peninsula Cities, 3 in the city of Monterey. Bayview Academy Upper Campus just recently was approved. And so what does that mean when we work with schools? We support things like walking school buses. So getting kids out, walking, biking, rolling to school to get some of their yayas out so they could focus better in the classroom. We support school gardens. We support healthy foods in the school cafeteria. We try to get social emotional learning integrated into the workday. The school day. So lots of ways to bring in evidence-based best practices to support our youngest citizens. The food environment is a big space where we work. So thinking about transforming restaurants and grocery stores to make healthy choices much more easy and available by default. 15 in Peninsula cities so far. You see the ones here in the city of Monterey again. Pleased that MPC and Chomp and the Portola and the Plaza are transforming all of their restaurants and all of their spaces to make healthy choices available. And then there's the policy. So we have a three-prong approach to the policy work, which is across food and our food systems, our built environment, and tobacco cessation. Generally in the policy space, we work across ensuring that we support a marquee project. So this is a big infrastructure change in community designed to help community live into the Blue Zone's principles and practices. We support policy plans or sustainable programs and capacity building. So you'll see those across all of our policy areas. We've had a lot of great impact already in the food space. Lots of great partners. I will, and we still are looking for ideas relating to a marquee project in the city of Monterey. So if you have thoughts, please let me know. You know, we've thought about working with the farmers market, really trying to increase some of the available nutrition incentive programs. So if there are thoughts, please get in touch. But lots of other great initiatives already in play. Have had some great collaboration with Ted Terrasas and the technical advisory committee that he's been leading countywide relating to the edible food recovery work in the county. So lots of great actors and great partnership. The built environment is another space we would love to continue to support the good work happening here. You'll see the marquee project is, you know, we've kind of looked at perhaps some amenities around Laguna Grande, thinking about what are some more demonstration projects that we can support your team in getting on the ground to help people feel safer to bike and walk and recreate in this great city. Looking at additional policies or support, as well as capacity building. And then lastly, tobacco. You all have had some wonderful leadership in this city relating to tobacco cessation. So thank you for that. Thank you for the leadership. And, if there are more initiatives or more ideas that you have as it relates to that good work, that's absolutely part of our policy portfolio. So we'd love to continue to support the work that's already happening here. And so that's it. I made it. 8 minutes. I think there might be a little bit of time for questions maybe, but just thank you so much for your time and attention. And we walked here. Our office is right here in downtown. So please stop in. And if you have ideas or thoughts or opportunities where you see we can support, your initiatives or the work you all are doing with the HEAL program, we are all ears. So thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much for the presentation and thanks for walking over here, both in the sense of like just being here, but also getting some physical motion going on. Council, questions, comment? We can go to comments too.
Just thank you so much. I really appreciate this. I actually participated in some of the trainings with Salinas Valley Hospital when they did some dealing with Blue Zone. And so I just applaud you for the work that you are doing. And I'm so happy that you're in downtown Monterey. So thank you. Continue to do great work.
Thanks so much. We're thrilled to be downtown. It's a great location.
Councilmember Smith.
Thank you very much. I'm on your website and there's one upcoming Community Volunteer Day in November 18th at Laguna Grande Park. And that's general cleanup. So thank you very much for participating in that. That should be a strong event and hopefully people will see this presentation tonight and jump on here and register. So Laguna Grande, November 18th, help clean up. So go register if you're seeing this tonight.
Wonderful. Thanks for that plug. Yeah, lots of free events available. So thank you.
Thank you. Good website. Thanks for the information.
Councilmember Hoffa.
Yeah, I've got a question and then a suggestion for the marquee kind of thing. So question, could you help me better understand how the monetization model works? Like how do you sustain what you do? Is it fully based on like grants and your sponsors? And then what are you looking for from the city?
Great question. Thank you. Yeah. So in terms of the sponsorship model is that we are very fortunate here, and that's really how the project comes to local community, is to have local sponsorship. And so Salinas Valley Health, Taylor Farms, and Montage really, took the lead on this and wanted to bring it to the county and have fully funded phase 1 of the project. So in its entirety, there's no need for us to be fundraising or soliciting additional dollars. Actually, we absolutely don't. We'll channel if folks want to give. We'll channel to some of our partner organizations or other entities. So it's really their vision, their commitment to public health and well-being that allows us to do the work we do here. In terms of what the city can do, just ways that we can continue to support. I know, there's a lot of great work happening in the city of Monterey already as it relates to parks, open space, bike and ped, food access, but if there are ways that our team can support that, support engaging the community in different ways, that's what we do, and so we have a team that can support that work. We have a crew of volunteers that have been working with us pretty extensively. So just ways to continue to align, augment, and uplift some of the great work that's happening here would be helpful, and if there's, more opportunities, more ideas, as I mentioned, there's 72 plus Blue Zones project communities across the United States. I never like reinventing wheels. So, there might be some ideas that are happening in the broader Blue Zones universe that could be brought to the city and considered as well. So just, being in dialogue, I think we're all working on the same page in terms of wanting to support community health and well-being. So being in partnership and communication around that is important.
I appreciate that information. So for me, the suggestion would, and I'm not really sure if it fits into your philosophy or not, but I think accessing and navigating our healthcare system here locally is a real problem. When I experienced personally that negatively impact my health outcomes when I recently had a healthcare issue. And I think in talking to people, I think this is not unique to me. There's a lot of folks who do. So I think that is something that definitely needs some attention. Part of the issue is not enough primary care providers. Primary care providers are an obstacle to people getting to the specialized care they need. People getting directed into the emergency room who really shouldn't be in the emergency room. So anyway, I just share that with you. I think that it is having a pretty significant impact. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks so much.
The policy that you talked about in regards to edible recovery, there looks like there might be some partnership with the city might already be going on there. Could you describe what that looks like more and what would you see as the future of the opportunities there?
Yeah, I mean, it's really been led by Ted Terrasas, who's your, I think, sustainability manager here in the city. And he's been chairing a task force across the county relating to SB 1383. So that's the, essentially the mandate that came down around diverting food waste or organic waste, out of our landfill. So there's a couple different streams running in parallel with that work. One of them is getting a bunch of, kind of key stakeholders in the county together, looking at trying to divert edible food out of that waste stream. So, food insecurity is a major issue that I think we're all aware of in this county. And so we were involved in some conversations around the county adopting an app, an iPhone or a phone app that can help connect folks who are considered to be like generators, food generators. So they might be grocery stores or some of our major hospitality spaces or conference spaces, right? Well, they'll have an abundance of edible food left over. They can actually add those onto the app. And then folks on the other side who are food insecure organizations seeking to meet the needs of food insecure people can get onto the app and they can connect. And so then that food can be diverted and put into the mouths and bellies of folks who need it. So that's an example. And so that's work that's happening countywide. And there's actually an app that they have adopted called Carrot. If you're not familiar with it, I'd encourage you to check it out. But Blue Zones has played a role in that, certainly through our ecosystem of approved restaurants and grocery and hospitality spaces. We're trying to get as much buy-in into the app and just continue to support, trying to mitigate the food insecurity that's present in the county. So.
I appreciate the response. I know that but just for the public in general, it's a really huge priority for the city of Monterey and just for the region overall, and making sure that we're compliant with state law and the benefits that it creates for our environment as well. So I appreciate your partnership in that. Where, if at all, are there opportunities for advocacy work in particular one of the city's main efforts is housing. What does it look like in regards to Blue Zone being able to support or be involved in that process?
Yeah, I mean, when we look at community health and well-being, we look at one of the aspects is the social determinants of health, and housing security is a key piece of that. If folks are housing insecure, that has a trickle down up around effect of their overall well-being, right? And so, yeah, any opportunity that we can add voice and advocate for more, the missing middle, sustainable, low, mid-income housing, we're there. So you know where I work.
Yes, yes. Thank you. I have some thoughts, but I'll save them to the end. So that way we can allow the public to jump in and see if they have any comments. But thank you for your presentation. I am going to jump to my notes. Okay, so I just ask for folks that want to speak on this presentation. If you're in the chamber, I ask that you line up. And for folks that are online, for you to raise your hand. We will capture all those individuals that want to speak at one time. So if you're not standing by the time that I end the opportunity for folks to participate in public comment, then it will be closed and you will no longer be able to participate. Does that make sense? So if you're in the chamber and you want to speak on this item, I ask that you stand now so that you can be identified. And then for those online, to have your hand raised. And at this point, we will go ahead and close that. So we capture the folks online. Sir, since you're standing here, why don't you go ahead and join us first for public comment on this presentation?
My name is Chandler Rowland, and I'm a resident of Marina. My subject is the rejection of the MST SURF project.
Sir, so this isn't general public comment. This is specifically
Sorry,
public comment for this
I had
agenda.
trouble understanding what you were referring to.
No worries. And I think that part will come up right after the second presentation. So I will let you know when you come back up in line. Sir, you wanting to speak on this present? So did you want to speak on this item?
No, I want to be.
General public item. Okay, so you're next. You're okay. Well, then you can go ahead and have a seat and we'll jump to the folks online.
Yes, we had one hand raised, and it's a telephone caller with the last three digits 902. So unmute, please, and go ahead.
Good evening. My name is Nina Beatty. There are very serious environmental toxic problems and related health challenges in this community that unfortunately a nice walk and eating right and socializing won't solve. We have a Superfund site filled with toxins and hazards, with the military poisoning the water, air, and the soil in Fort Ord, in and around Fort Ord, and our drinking water comes from under the most polluted area with few disclosures to the public. And Monterey and Delray Oaks both want to put housing on this polluted land. The health determination is a determinant is that you live in a safe place, not just that you have a roof over your head. There's military radar, RF emissions, including 5G, and likely cancer clusters in the neighborhoods around the new Nail Postgraduate School and its adjunct facilities. There are pesticides and herbicides contaminating the food, soil, air, and water, and damaging health, especially to those who live near fields, exposing children at their schools. Montage Health itself has many cellular microwave antennas on the hospital and high levels of microwave Wi-Fi inside the hospital with known health problems, especially for babies and children. But the administration ramps up more, affecting staff and patients and blocking health care for those of us who are already disabled by this exposure and affecting nearby homes. And I'm troubled that the affiliation of Blue Zones project is with ShareCare, that is itself a digital and mobile app. And we heard mention already tonight of apps encouraging the public to use their wireless devices. Wi-Fi in schools is a known toxic exposure for children and young people, and the school districts are ignoring the research. We have nuclear waste dumps of the courtesy of the Navy in the ocean up the coast, which is carried into the bay. And since 2011, Fukushima radiation by air and ocean, with dumping of additional contaminated water since July. Known that we have very high cancer rates in this community. And there's the destruction of trees that are happening in this community, including with city approval. And I'm troubled that there's recognition to entities that are actually increasing ill health, and that the funding is coming from entities such as Montage Health. If this endeavor is saying that everything isn't that bad and that we just need a little tweak here and there, that would be false. Many of these are common sense solutions, as has already been noted. It feels to me a little bit like advocating putting sunscreen on at the beach and ignoring the incoming tsunami. These fundamental and very deep problems, which local institutions are part of or actively causing, is at the core. And these won't gain anyone or any organization any popularity contest or open doors. But I would hate to think the Blue Zones project is about what looks good and actually does very little in terms of addressing these deep entrenched community problems. But until there's some evidence that the organization is willing to have that, I'm
Ms.
not
Beatty.
comfortable with any partnership.
There are no further hands raised, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, perfect. Any last thoughts from the council?
Nope.
Okay. Thank you so much for the presentation. I would love to find opportunities that exist where we can continue to partner with each other. And regardless of our relationship, I'm just super appreciative of you being here and getting the word out about what you all are doing to help the community be more active, eat healthier, make better life choices, if you will. So thank you so much for all that you're doing and the presentation today. Alrighty. And with that, we'll move to item number 2, which is a presentation on sidewalk policy, and we'll pass it to Hans for a staff presentation.
Yeah, it's actually about crosswalks, Mr. Mayor. So Andrew, our newly appointed city engineer and deputy public works director, will start us off. We feel it's necessary to look at our crosswalks slightly differently, and the idea is to introduce to you tonight generally what we are thinking as staff and present to you just our current issues that we see with the existing procedures that we have in place, and why we feel that the crosswalk policy is actually in the best interest of the city. And with that, Andrew Easterling, if you go ahead.
Thank you, Hans. So good afternoon, Mayor and members of the council. My name is Andrew Easterling. I'm a relatively new employee with Public Works. This is just an informational item. There's no recommended motion, but we wanted to update you on the crosswalk policy. Is there a trick to this? Okay, that's the way it's supposed to look. All right, thank you. So just a quick introduction. The city of Monterey routinely receives requests to install or enhance crosswalks. However, designing a crosswalk, it can be a complex process, and the installation of crosswalk markings alone don't necessarily make it a safe crosswalk. In fact, the opposite can sometimes be true. So the purpose of developing a Monterey crosswalk policy is really to develop a data-driven, transparent, and uniform process for considering when we install crosswalk markings and when we might remove crosswalk markings. The goal of this policy would really be to keep our residents and our guests safe through a data-driven process, which is consistent with the city's Vision Zero goal of reducing severe and fatal injuries on city streets. So just a little bit more background on crosswalks. Crosswalks can look like a number of different things. Crosswalks being marked or unmarked, so the painted lines on the ground don't necessarily make a legal crosswalk. The California Vehicle Code says anywhere where a sidewalk at an intersection has a natural path to a connecting sidewalk on the opposite side of the intersection, it's a legal crosswalk, whether it's marked or unmarked. So drivers still have the responsibility to yield to pedestrians when they're in the street. The only time a crosswalk wouldn't exist if it was prohibited through signs, something prohibiting pedestrian crossing. Also, just a little bit of context, in 2022, the state passed the Freedom to Cross Act, and so it's now legal for pedestrians to cross anywhere they like, as long as it's safe to do so, just as long as it's not between two signalized intersections. So again, establishing a policy, it would be creating a data-driven methodology to reduce pedestrian collision potential. It creates a transparent process for considering a crosswalk, so it's clear to everyone why we would be installing crosswalk markings and maybe why we necessarily wouldn't. It also creates uniform standards so that similar treatments are applied in similar situations. We don't have two sets of standards in different areas. And clear policies improve efficiencies for staff to respond to requests and prevents. So when should a city mark a crosswalk or not? Well, a number of factors typically go into crosswalk policies. Pedestrian volume, you want to make sure that if you're installing markings, there's pedestrians that actually cross there. Distance from adjacent crosswalks, sightlines and geometry, making sure pedestrians have visibility. Vehicular speeds and volumes, number of lanes and distance the pedestrians are going to have to cross the street. Presence of a median or a pedestrian refuge island. Street lighting. So all these things are taken into consideration typically when an agency decides when and when not to install a crosswalk. And establishing a policy would give us clear criteria on when it's appropriate or when it's not appropriate. If a crosswalk, it should be installed, what enhancements should be installed in addition to the markings to ensure it's an empirically safe crosswalk? So signs and markings alone, sometimes you want to have raised crosswalks or curb extensions or refuge islands, flashing beacon systems or pedestrian signals. These are all countermeasures or tools that can complement a crosswalk marking to ensure it's meeting nominal safety standards. And so that, I just wanted to provide an introduction onto what we're thinking and what we're starting to work on. There's no recommended motion from the council. We're just providing a presentation as an informational item. And so with that, I'll conclude it and open it up for questions and comments.
Councilmember Burke.
So thank you so much for that concise presentation to let us know what you are working on. I think it's very important what you're working on. And especially speaking from someone who's over there by Lighthouse. And I'm sure you already, I know you're new, but I'm sure you already know about Lighthouse. Where several crosswalks near Lighthouse and Prescott, and then one by Hoffman as well. Are some issues where you have the crosswalk and people aren't using them, and where you used to have a crosswalk and it still has like faint lines where, and yet it has a bar that says do not cross here and across somewhere else. But there have been several times that people have actually almost gotten hit, and a couple of times people have gotten hit in those same intersections. So I'm just curious as to, you said highlighting some of the crosswalks. What are some of the highlights that you're thinking of? I know you said something about, was it a blinking light or?
Sure. So I'm going to go back a couple slides real quick to the different styles of crosswalks. So I'm mostly talking about uncontrolled crosswalks here, but when you're at a traffic signal, usually the signal is kind of the highest level of control you'd have at an intersection. So where we remove the crosswalk markings on Lighthouse and directed pedestrians to the opposite side of the street, there's a specific reason for it. I'm still new and kind of getting up to speed, but I know there was visibility and sun glare issues with one of the locations. And I believe there was also some consideration of sight distance or sight lines at the other location. So those markings were removed really to enhance safety and to direct pedestrians to the ideal crossing location. But the controls that are in place at signalized intersections are really kind of the highest level of controls we have in our toolbox. But the flashing beacons, curb extensions, the other treatments we could consider. Definitely, I'm kind of, I guess I maybe should caveat this. This is more for uncontrolled crosswalks, but some of those tools can be considered at signals. But once you have the signal in place, we don't put in flashing beacon systems or some of the other treatments.
So I guess my question is seeing more information on where you actually have put an actual blockade for people not to go through that crosswalk, because you've taken that crosswalk away that used to be there because it's not safe for the reasons that you just named. But people are still not paying attention to it, and that's where some of the different accidents and issues have happened. So I'm just curious as to what other ways, because you're already doing something, but people aren't paying attention. And I'm just curious as if there are other options and ways that we could do as far as highlighting, I guess, where you need to walk as opposed to maybe not where to walk.
Bringing in reinforcement.
Okay, reinforcement.
Good evening. I'm Andrea Rennie, Public Works Director. So a lot of the times when we do grind to remove crosswalks, so as we did in Prescott and Lighthouse, you still can see a little bit. So Lighthouse is going to get resurfaced and it should take care of that. But that's a really good point. And one of the things we can do is through education and outreach, so that we do educate people on why it is not maybe the safest option to cross there.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
Anybody else? Councilmember Hoffa?
I have a comment that I'll wait until the public, but I do have a question. So under the kind of the things, yeah, right there, one of the things you mentioned as a potential consideration is vehicle speed and volume. Wonder if you could say a little bit more. So if vehicle speeds are high, would that be a consideration to have a crosswalk, or if vehicle speeds are low? I'm a little unclear.
So if vehicle speeds, and this is part of the reason why we want to develop a policy, so it's clear cut, but in my experience, if vehicle speeds and volumes are high and you have the crossing demand to necessitate a crosswalk, that's where you want to start considering the other enhancements that would go along with the crosswalk. So generally, the presence of pedestrian volume, pedestrian crossings, and the proximity to other adjacent crosswalks kind of triggers the need to put in the markings. And then once you've made the decision that the crosswalk should be there, the next step is looking at what enhancements should go along with that crosswalk. And if it can't be made safe or meet up to standard with the enhancements, then you shouldn't have the marking. Once you've decided that you need the enhancements and they can't go in for whatever reason, there's no such thing as like a half safe crosswalk. You would want to go ahead and remove the crossings and direct them to the safest or most ideal crossing location.
Question for the city manager. So, you know, we've got a lot of things on the plate as far as our work plan. This is going to, especially if we're going to be not just making the policy, but then we start implementing it and maybe removing potentially. Do you have the staff capacity, do you feel like, to do this? And is this a high priority in your view as city manager?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Hoffa, for that question. That's always a question when we have also an engineering shortage right now and more project than we can handle. But this is a must do for us, or a must look into it, because it just improves the overall position of the city in having a clean cut policy and creating also some sort of security there for us with respect to establishing standards for that. This is not something that we have to reinvent. It's a pretty straightforward process for us to create those policies and bring it back to you for your consideration. But this is something that was on the wait list for quite some time, and kudos go to our public works director to have picked it up. And you might recall she was a city traffic engineer for many years prior to that, and I believe we have enough capacity to get this done, because we have to do it. It will improve our position very much.
Okay. Councilmember Smith?
Just a comment, appreciate that in the detail. It's a good opener as this progresses with some meat to it. But doesn't the vehicle code also have some specific language where it also demands that there should be crossing somewhere?
So the vehicle code doesn't have any clear criteria for when or when not to mark a crosswalk. It does have some information on what a crosswalk is and what a crosswalk isn't, but we do have some guidelines we follow. Most commonly, it's the Manual of Uniform Traffic Control Devices. There's other empirical studies that have looked at crossing demand and kind of developed best practices. So we'll be looking at those guidelines, the empirical data to develop the policy, but the California Vehicle Code alone doesn't provide warrants or clear-cut criteria for when and when not to mark crosswalk.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Sure, thank you.
Okay. I had a question. Just what, I guess, precipitated this? What led to this happening? And part of, I guess, my question is, what is our current policy, or maybe lack thereof, that has us looking into this a little bit more?
So I can answer it. I can be the new guy who came in with a bunch of wacky new ideas, and I said, we don't have a policy.
We love wacky new ideas here, by the way.
And Andreas,
Maybe I'll just speak for myself. But
this has been something I've been wanting to do. And so I think we kind of reopened this can of worms. And I know it's been something that has been desired for a while. We just have never had either the capacity or the bandwidth to do it. I don't know if you had anything to add, but go ahead.
Sorry, as we are one of the first smaller cities to do Vision Zero, I think it's always benefits us to have a plan. And so this will also allow us to have a plan on how do we want to address crosswalks that we need to enhance. And this goes to what they were talking about, blue zones and making Monterey more pedestrian friendly.
And for the public that may not be aware of Vision Zero, could you describe that a little bit more?
Vision Zero is a movement that started in Netherlands, thank you, where they say that the only acceptable number is zero. So zero fatalities and severe injuries. And so that's a goal that we have. And we have a Vision Zero plan, we have a mobility plan. And so these all integrate together, and having a crosswalk policy also just straightens our desire to make crosswalks safer, make the residents and visitors safer, and direct people to where it is safest to cross, enhancing and just having a plan forward to increase mobility.
Which kind of gets your point that you just made is going to get to my second question. So it's a little bit rhetorical at this point, but it's the expectation is that we're creating a safer environment for our community and visitors. So thank you for that. I'm good. We'll open it up to the public at this time for public comment. So same procedures. Thank you both. And great job on the presentation, by the way, for your first time here. Anybody in the chamber who wishes to speak on this item, I ask if you please stand. And for folks online, ask that you raise your hand, and we'll give you a few seconds to do so before we close the opportunity off to folks. Anybody else in the chamber? And we'll close it off. All right, so staff has captured what we have online, and we'll go ahead and start in the chamber.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council, city staff, members of the public. My name is Tanya Riss. I'm the Community Program Manager with Blue Zones Project Monterey County. I just had to come up and make a public comment. I think that this is a wonderful thing you all are considering. It's excellent being brought forward by staff. Vision Zero is definitely something that across all of Monterey County, Blue Zones Project is advocating for and around. Really appreciating the leadership that you all have demonstrated here in the city of Monterey in terms of adopting a policy. That's something we want to see every city in Monterey County do. We are currently in collaboration with TAMC and MST working on a public education and outreach campaign relating to Vision Zero. So there will be several videos, signage, all sorts of different methodologies to get community aware and understanding their role and responsibility in terms of creating safer streets together for everyone. But I'll be keeping my ear out for this coming back around to you all and continue to advocate in support of you all adopting this policy, because absolutely it will translate into making the city of Monterey even more safe to bike and walk, which is a really important goal for us here in the city, across the peninsula cities and the county. And I'd be happy once this is passed to take this to some of our other cities in Monterey County to see if other cities would follow your good example. So thank you for this. Keep up the good work.
Thank you, Tanya. We'll take it online.
Yes, we have two telephone callers. I'll call first on the one ending in 902.
Yes, this is Nina Beatty again. I have brought to your attention in the past that there's a safety issue with the crossing in front of the post office in Monterey, downtown Monterey. There is a crosswalk at the corner of the street, but this whole area from the parking on the opposite side of the street to the front of the post office is basically a crosswalk. But they have regular accidents and regular misses of near misses. And this happens apparently, according to staff that reported to me on this at the post office, this is happening every week. So that serious injuries can happen and likely do happen frequently. This has to be addressed as since that post office is so well used, and it is in a sort of vulnerable spot, being on a street that is a connector road to other major streets in Monterey. This needs to be addressed with something more than just bumping up the crosswalk that already exists, putting, I don't know, bollards down the middle of the street, putting speed bumps, but this critical crossing needs to be addressed before someone's killed in front of the post office, and they've had staff members also hit. So I don't think we want to see our local post office personnel injured as well as or the public. Thank you.
All right, and our next speaker is another telephone caller with the last three digits 705. Telephone caller with this three digits 705, please go ahead. You'll need to dial *6 to unmute.
Yes, good evening, Mayor and City Council members. The only way you're going to stop this traffic problem that's so dangerous is if you literally put a red light and a stop when people press the little button to cross the way, a big stop. That's the only way, because these people now that are driving, it's like they can't stop. It's impossible. They dodge you while you're in the middle of the street. One even tried to run me over. It was amazing. I couldn't believe it. So we have to be very, very careful now. And the only way you're going to stop this terrible traffic problem that you, the planners and the city, have okayed in the past and continue to okay by not having a proper train system down here, by not having carpooling available. TAMSI doesn't even do carpooling anymore. I could use to call TAMSI and immediately the next day have ridership all the way up to Santa Cruz and back. I used to do that. And you don't have any of that kind of program now. So what I'm saying is you're going to have to put at these crosswalks a big red light signal that people can press the button and not that little yellow flashing light which says, okay, be careful, because these people aren't being careful anymore. It's gotten insane. Thank you.
Mr. Vice Mayor, there are no further hands raised on Zoom.
Okay, thank you very much. Then we'll close the public comment on at this time, and I'll bring it back to the council for any closing comments. Ed, do you have any thoughts you want to share?
Yeah, I think it's off to a good start. I think it's a good idea. I know in years past that we would have requests from citizens that would like to have either speed bumps or, crosswalk mid-block and in their neighborhood. And so I see that gives us some general statements that is a guiding policy that is a predetermination of how we handle the request. So I think it's a good idea. Is there a possibility that this could include something about the speed bumps? Because I don't know that we have a official policy in writing for speed bumps, but I hate to have Andrea have to answer that and come back up. But do we have a policy on speed bumps? And I'd love to know how we can get that memorialized or where it's someplace that I can direct some folks that they can see that.
It's in our traffic calming policy adopted by council.
Okay, and that would be available on the
It's online.
online.
Mhm,
Okay.
I can send you the link.
Yeah, if you'll send me the link, because I've gotten 2 requests for some people that think that would solve the problems. But as we know, speed bumps are inherently, they come with some trouble.
Yes.
So that would be much appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you.
Could we have that in the Friday folder so that everybody can see that? Perfect. Thank you.
That was all I had, Vice Mayor.
Yeah, first of all, I just want to appreciate staff for the presentation. For me, pedestrian safety, bicycle safety, creating a genuine community where people can move about safely is really a high priority. So if that's the goal here, then I am supportive. I certainly share the goal of trying to make our community safer for people to be able to move about. For me personally, years ago, I got involved in politics. We lived in Phoenix. It was exactly over something like this. A road connection was put in right in front of a school where a few years earlier, a teacher had been struck and killed crossing the street. And the city refused to put in a stop sign at there in front of the school where this new road was coming through. And we organized the neighborhood because it's just not acceptable. So I mean, my concern initially when I saw this was, you know, thinking that somehow this is going to be a way to streamline getting rid of crosswalks. If this is about making sure that we're doing them smart, that we have the right kind of infrastructure around them, then I'm supportive of it. You know, I visit Ashland, Oregon, and I've talked about this before. I've talked about it with the chief, but I think it's germane here too. You go to Ashland, Oregon, cars stop, you know. Lorna Moffitt's absolutely right. That doesn't happen in our city. You can stand there and cars, it's like they don't see you, they don't care. We need to find, you know, if this can be part of the solution to really changing our culture of how cars and human beings interact, so that again, people feel safe to get out and walk and get out and bike, then I'm all for it. Thank you.
Councilmember Robert DeGiordi. You're good. You know, you're making a really good point, Alan. It makes me kind of think of even things like climate change. It's like, how do we help educate the community on these important things so that, you know, we're making an assumption that people are going to respect and follow it, but what are we actively doing towards helping to change the culture and the climate within our community? And so I wonder how that fits into how do we operate and function as a city moving forward in the future. More educational opportunities, and I don't know what that looks like, but you know, tabling and literature. I don't know how we do that, but I think you're onto something there in regards to helping to educate the community, and I appreciate the public comments on that as well. I think that is it for this item. So again, congrats on your first presentation. You did an excellent job. Appreciate you being here and hope we'll see you again soon. All right. And sorry, I had one more thing. It's because the items are somewhat related, I feel like it's still appropriate to share this. I just have to say, I got a little notification on my computer. My mom texted during your presentation and said, "Nice picture, Ty. I love blue zones." So I just passing along the love. So thanks again for being here. Thanks for both presentations. Matters that are not on today's agenda. So if you want to speak on items that aren't on the agenda, this is the time to do it. And I ask that if you're in the chamber that you either stand or raise your hand, just be identified. So I think we have 3 in the chamber, and then let's have hands raised online. So again, this is for items that are not on this evening's agenda. Give folks a second here to raise hands. And with that, we'll close the opportunity for additional hands. All righty.
My name is Chandler Rowland. I'm a resident of Marina. The subject is the rejection of the MST Surf Project. My subject is the MST Surf Project express passenger ridership numbers from the Marina Transit Station to Seaside Sand City Transit Station. On 2 occasions, I requested the above Route 20 bus trip ridership information for 2022, and MST responded by email as follows. August 16, 2023, MST does not retain stop-level passenger data from Marina to Sand City and back. September 6, 2023, the general manager stating, MST does not currently report this data. Therefore, for 2022, the Monterey Public is unable to determine the number of passengers riding the only express 20 bus trips between Marina and Seaside Sand City. 2 major factors must be considered when approving any proposed new public express transit bus lines. The present total passenger riders and the passenger ridership once the bus lines are completed. And in this case, MST indicates a questionable, inaccurate 880,000 the first year. On these 2 factors, the MST Surf Project has failed to inform and has actually misled Monterey Public regarding accurate passenger ridership. I request that each member of the council show their concerns regarding the present MST Surf Project and consider other available MST alternative options. MST must not be allowed to destroy our 6 miles of environmental landscape and portions of our coastal recreation trail between Marina and Sand City.
Good afternoon, City Council. Steve Lightfoot of the LennonMurderTruth.com van. I'm going to have a rally this coming Monday, just October 9th, John Lennon's birthday, right here downtown on Alvarado Street. I ask the city of Monterey, the people, to attend at noon, right there in front of Rosine's. That is where I normally set up shop by my big yellow van. This story is going to be the biggest story ever told in U.S. history. It's going to undo a lot of institutions and magazines and medias and DC and the world order takeover. It's going to totally reshape the entire political, social structure. John Lennon called his murder the event before he died because he knew he was going to get killed. There are two kinds of people: those who are cowards, have no self-respect, and let the government walk all over them. They lick the boot. They don't think Stephen King killing John Lennon is a big deal. They don't have any class. They don't have any brains. They don't have any sense. You know, mankind is a pretty insane creature. There was no trial for anybody who shot John Lennon, and we all pretended that we didn't notice that, but we all knew what happened. San Francisco is looking like a dog kennel lately, isn't it? They had their chance with me. When they realized that they didn't have the guts to help me, they lost their self-image and their self-respect and their pride, and they admitted that, yeah, we're all just phony, ridiculous people, and look at them now. Same with Berkeley. My hometown of Santa Rosa was burned in the biggest fire they've ever had on John Lennon's birthday. I mean, the karma just continues and continues, folks. The other day, I was telling the people downtown Monterey, you're going to end up just like San Francisco with no class and no self-respect if you don't start caring about this matter. Now, I've got about 5 DMV matters I'm trying to clean off my record because of the brutal campaign by law enforcement in the courts here since I arrived with my new van. 6 incidents I don't deserve, I'm trying to get taken off my record. At least 5. And I want to say thanks for not bugging me for a year there, Chief, because it's a pretty PTSD territory when you do, and I don't deserve that. What else did I want to say? Oh, you can tell a lot about my story, about the world. Did you know that Hillary Clinton and Bill Clinton invited Stephen King secretly into the White House a week before the Oklahoma City bomb went off? So we know that they're no good. Did you know that Obama and Biden gave Stephen King a medal for the arts while Obama was president? So you know they're not good people. You know they're evil people. Just a little taste of what this story is going to awaken your eyes to. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, sir. Did you want to speak?
Test.
You're on.
I want to thank Alan Hapa for all the work he's done. He stands up for people like us. It's a hard thing to do. It's a hard thing to walk down your own streets, to know that you can do more, but you can't. It's a hard thing that you only get a budget to pinch your own pennies and spend your own money, because you're not just the predecessor of the people, you're a predecessor of who raised you. You're a predecessor of who we are. We have to stand for what we believe. And Ala Hapa has done that in front of me at this council meeting, in front of the world, because you know they're watching. And when I say that, you know you can cash my check at Commerce Bank.
I mean, I beg. Because those are the crooks that discounted us as human beings. But we're going to segue. I am here to speak on the homeless matter. The homeless are being bullied. I was arrested on the platform for attempted murder. I was the one that was pepper sprayed and called a faggot and stabbed. They took me in. I was acquitted. Let me tell you something. I was not. Yeah. I am here to say, stop killing the homeless. Be the model. Seaside is waiting for you to be the model. Do you know what they're doing on that side? Well, we're going to segue again. You're doing a great job. Don't print. The federal government is not paying your bills, and I'm keeping this very G-rated. They're only steering you into a direction that they're going into. State and federal are two different things. We're going to separate. We all know this. We all know this.
Thank you.
I love you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for what you do and what you stand for.
Thank you.
With my heart.
All right, let's go online, please.
All right, we have a telephone caller with the last three digits 902.
Good evening again. This is Nina Beatty. I wanted to alert the city to an event that's happening at Laguna Seca beginning October 16th. The main part of the event will be the 20th through the 22nd. It was approved by the Board of Supervisors in August, and it's an event called Grid Life. This event is completely different than the normal event that happens at Laguna Seca. It involves drifting and racing and loud concerts at night. People bring their street cars or their performance cars to race at the event. And drifting, for those of you who don't know, is where a driver sends a car full speed down a track, fishtailing it back and forth and creating great clouds of rubber smoke. And they do this on a timed event from I don't know how long the event, the course that they do it on, but we just spent money paving that track. And this event alone could cause a great deal of damage to the track. The noise that it's going to create. But what I'm concerned about for the city of Monterey, and I've told people I know to stay off the streets that weekend, is that the folks from this event, one article on Grid Life was titled, "Come for the Cars, Stay for the Anarchy." It's going to spill over into our communities. People coming into town for some fun and drinks and food and doing burnouts and drifting on the Highway 68 or Highway 1 or on Alvarado. I'm very concerned about the public safety risk from this event. I asked the county to cancel it. I've alerted cities that are right next to this event. No action's been taken by the county, and everyone seems afraid of the county. Secondly, I wanted to protest what appears to be the cutting down of the forest, the historic forest on the ocean side of Del Monte, next to the postgraduate school. I think it's being done tree by tree so that the public won't notice it. I don't know if that's land controlled by the Naval Postgraduate School, but I would like the city to take an action to stop this long-standing habitat for hawks and owls and hummingbirds and all kinds of creatures that live in that forest. But those trees are being killed one by one, and I see new piles of sawdust when I drive by there. I would like the city to take very strong action to stop this killing of this beautiful forest that's been with us and is much older than most of us in this room. I think probably those trees are over 100 years old. They are residents of Monterey and they deserve to stay here. So please take action to stop this. The Navy, I did a FOIA request to them, and they told me there were no responsive records. So either it's some rogue element within the Naval Postgraduate School, or it's some policy that they're just lying to the public about. So yet another thing the Navy's done. Thank you.
All right, next speaker is a telephone caller with the last three digits 705.
Yes. I want to talk about the city moving too fast on this affordable housing without even mentioning at the city council meetings that I've been at, talking about the environmental impacts of our sanctuary. You are selling our sanctuary down the road, and you are making it like, oh, we have to house all these people. I totally agree. However, it's never going to end. The more you house, the more you build, the more people come. So there has to be a stop growth period. And they did that in Cambria, and I'm asking you to do that with Monterey. Monterey Sanctuary is one of the most, if not the most significant sanctuary in the world. And we can't allow it to be heated up. And that is what's happening. It's heated up 12 degrees in the last year. And there is no mention, no study of what it's doing to our marine life. And that's from the traffic and the parking lot. And so we need to utilize what's available, the units that are available, and not build anymore, because that means thousands of trees have to come down, not just here, but in the rainforest in Brazil and up in Washington. Millions of trees to build these houses. And we have to, at what point, after those 3,000 people move in, you don't think there's not going to be any more? At what point are you going to say, okay, we have to stop. We have to protect our resources. And you're not doing that. Traffic pollution is destroying our brains. That's a proven scientific fact now. It's causing Alzheimer's and dementia, and young and old alike. I've sent you all the data, and it just gets ignored. And it's so crucial. Every tree needs to be saved now. They suck up the pollution, literally through their stigmata in the leaves. They take in the CO2. They breathe out oxygen. They breathe out moisture in the air. One large tree breathes out 100 gallons a day into the air, keeping it moist. And when you cut these trees down and build and build, and there's no stopping it, you've got to start figuring out what is the stopgap. When are you going to say enough is enough? Or are you just going to let it build, build, build? Thank you.
And the next speaker, go ahead, please.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Go ahead, please.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you. Go ahead and speak your
Okay.
public comment.
Thanks. Sorry about that. Hi, my name is Phil Bazuska. I'm with the Monterey Firefighters Association. I tuned in late to the last meeting where council authorized the purchase of the flatbed pickup truck. I just wanted to convey our support for that purchase. That pickup truck will replace a 24-year-old vehicle that's been out of service for over a year now, which has severely limited response capability to the city and the entire county, as the Urban Search and Rescue Team is a countywide resource. The fire department fleet are all vital pieces of equipment that allow us to do our job. And the association would like to convey their thanks to the council for their attention to maintaining the fire department fleet. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Mayor, there are no further comments.
Okay. Thank you. Righty. And with that, we will go to the consent agenda. And there are no items that I know of that are wish to be pulled. Does the council wish to pull anything? No. All right, we'll take it out to the public for public comment or items wish to be pulled. Anybody in the chamber? All right, do we have anybody online? Oh, well, okay. So I ask that you raise your hand if you want to speak to any items on the consent agenda or wish to pull an item. Give you a second to do so. All right, we will close that and pass it to Clementine for public comments online.
Yes. Telephone caller, go ahead, please.
Yes, this is Nina Beatty. I'd like item number 5 pulled on the grant funds from the State Department of Forestry and Fire Protection. And a presentation on what that involves.
Number 5.
That's
Yes.
item 5.
Yes.
Okay. We will pull item number 5. And is that the end of your public comment?
Oh, and
Oh. Okay, yeah. Anybody else?
yes, another telephone caller. So, go ahead, please.
I want to comment on that last item 5, why it's so important it's pulled. The Green Belt Fuel Reduction Plan is not based on true forestry science for the following
Pull
reasons.
that separately,
You don't-
so you can comment on it at that time, if that works for you. If you want to comment on item number 5, we're gonna go ahead and pull it. You can.
You
Okay.
muted her.
All right, next. No, that's it. Okay, perfect. All right. Bring it back to the council for a motion or discussion.
I would move to approve the consent agenda minus number 5.
All right, it's been moved and seconded by Councilmember Barber. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously.
Don't we have to
And we'll move to
individual?
item number 5, which is to authorize application for an acceptance of grant funds for the State Department of Forestry and Fire Protection for implementation of the Greenbelt Fuel Reduction Action Plan, authorize an increase in FY 24 and 25 annual revenues by 40,000, appropriate grant funds, appropriate annual matching funds of 75,000, and authorize the city manager to execute the agreement with CAL FIRE. Pass it to Hans for staff presentation.
Yeah, that's in essence my staff presentation, Mr. Mayor. So we got awarded a grant for $950,000. $750,000 are our portion of the matching grant, $400,000 for each year for 2 years from CAL FIRE. We have to spend the funds by 2025, if I remember correctly. The city has identified 8 areas for the Greenbelt fuel reduction, and those areas will be then targeted by those grants, and we will continue to ensure that our neighborhoods are safe from potential Greenbelt fuel fires. That's my report.
Okay, bring it back to the council for questions. Seeing none, we'll open it up to the public comment. Anybody in the chamber? Anybody online, I ask that you raise your hand and be identified. Give you a second. All right, we will go ahead and close public comment and pass it to Clementine for online public comments.
Yes, first, here's a first speaker. Go ahead, please.
Good afternoon, it's Esther Malkin. I'm speaking as the president of Laguna Grande Neighborhood Association. And I understand that this grant money is going to be for Greenbelt maintenance, but as you all are well aware, we've had some incidences at Laguna Grande Park. And I've questioned before where the money is coming from to reduce fuel in our park, as well as it's being done in other parts of the city. And I've been told that it's built into the budget. I think the fire chief told me that a couple of years ago. But if it's been built into the budget, we're not seeing it in our area. We have to wait years from time to time when this area gets attention, instead of when it's done right once, it being maintained. So I'm not sure why there isn't attention put on this in the same way that other parts of the city are handling their fire prevention. But we all have, encampments in these areas as well. And for us, that's where the fires are coming from. I don't know what it's going to take. We understand that the homeless encampments are pretty much a game of whack-a-mole. They're going to move from one side of the park to the other or to Roberts Lake. But when we're talking about an area that has been overgrown for years since the last time it was trimmed properly, this is just not okay. And, the JPA drags its feet. I don't have any idea what's going on over there. Permitting is being, the excuse that's been given for months on end with the consultant project. And in the meantime, we're having fires now. So yes, the staff was out there, and yes, they're doing stuff now, but it was only after we had 2 fires. So whatever this agenda item is about, I would like to see our park included in some of these projects of fuel reduction. I mean, I really don't understand, after all these years of having, these issues happening time and time again, why we can't get it right. And just, instead of jumping and pulling all the stops out a couple of years apart, maintaining the property. And staff should be capable of that. That's what they're paid for. To wait for CAL FIRE on top of how much we have to wait for the JPA is not fair to the residents of the neighborhood that are adjacent to this park and in danger. Thank you.
Okay, I'm calling on the next speaker, which is a telephone caller. Go ahead, please.
Yes, you don't cut down trees for fire safety. Trees are what keep an area moist. The leaves of the tree breathe in CO2, the greenhouse gas responsible for climate heating. They also breathe out oxygen and perspire through their leaves, keeping all vegetation beneath them perpetually moist, which we know as dew in the morning. This is what happened at Angel Island. What needs to happen is the debris beneath the trees needs to be cleaned up, not the trees themselves. Their lower branches can also be cut, but to sacrifice the trees, as this green belt fuel reduction plan plans to do, and they don't even name how many trees are going to come down, is pure madness. Stand beneath a tree on a hot day and you get an idea of what trees do. They lower the temperatures by as much as 10 degrees. In one day, one large tree can lift up 100 gallons of water out of the ground and discharge it into the air. One of the target trees will no doubt be the giant and magnificent eucalyptus trees, wrongfully targeted as a fire tree, when in fact they were used as wind and fire breaks in the past. There's an article where a fireman actually explains how eucalyptus trees have been wrongfully accused when all trees catch fire and all trees explode at certain temperatures. So I ask you to please demand that the trees be spared at all costs and the concentration of efforts go towards debris and dead brush removal instead. We need every tree now, Council, to combat climate change. We don't have another 100 years to grow trees from saplings, which are more susceptible to fire than big trees. I made these same comments when this Greenbelt fuel reduction plan was first proposed, and yet it is ignored because this science is based on timber science, cut the tree science, so timber industries could have an excuse to cut down our forests. Trees are not the problem. Wooden fences and houses are the problem. Shingled roofs are the problem. Dry grasses are the problem. Mowing dry grasses and removing debris will greatly solve our fire hazard problems, not the trees. Please, for the first time, can your council please start thinking about saving trees in Monterey? Thank you.
And our last speaker, also a telephone caller.
This is Nina Beatty. I want to concur with the previous two speakers. Esther Malkin correctly identifies that renters in the city really have few rights. And the city repeatedly, despite attempts by the public to right those wrongs, the councils and the leadership continue to deny them due process and rights, including basic notification. The efforts by the city in reading through documentation, non-native species are lumped into some sort of fire reduction plan, eradication of so-called non-natives. Well, on that score, most of us would be eliminated from Monterey because I don't know very many people that are native to our peoples are not native to this land. And as Ms. Moffitt said, the eucalyptus trees have the unique characteristic of sequestering a great deal of water in their trunks, and so they act as fire breaks. We have fire issues that are not being addressed by the city. I have for years brought the issue of the not just the flammability of houses, but the putting of by PG&E of a fire ignition source on every building in Monterey. And that is not been addressed. The city should be calling for PG&E to remove smart meters and to put analog meters back on houses, analog meters that are grounded and that have adequate surge protection, whereas smart meters do not, and also have lithium ion batteries that can explode. This is a huge fire danger as well as an equipment, electrical hazard for everyone in Monterey. Vegetation management needs to be done by those who don't have links to Sacramento. We need experts, we need independent experts. You have experts down at Esalen Institute who teach permaculture classes, as well as permaculture experts in Santa Cruz County that know about forest management, who know about vegetation management. So we have habitat for creatures as well as reduce fire danger. But when I go up to, for instance, Montage's clinic for people that are the hospice, there are people that smoke in the parking lot and no signs anywhere in evidence, simple things. And yet how the sick people being in a very tiny road that could have a fire that breaks out, these aren't homeless people. These are people that work or visit people that are sick at that Westland house. And the danger, it took my breath away to think of the danger to the people that are supposedly convalescing there, or maybe getting ready to die there, their vulnerability because of thoughtlessness of people that are just regular people in our community. So there's lots of different angles into this, but the city needs to take a look from an expert standpoint, not from a Sacramento standpoint, because the Sacramento mindset has been wrong.
All right, I'm sorry, we've gone over the 3 minutes. And Mr. Mayor, there are no further comments.
Okay, and with that, we will bring it to the council for discussion, deliberation, motion. Councilmember Barber.
So I have a question. One is a clarifying one, and the other is an actual question. I wanted to get an understanding of the Greenbelt fuel reduction. I understand about the removal of trees, but I understand also that it can be also the thinning of vegetation and different other processes. So can you just talk about how that process is for clarification purposes, please?
Yes, so greenbelt fuel reduction is not removal of trees. Greenbelt fuel reduction is removal of the underbrush that is growing underneath the trees. Genesta is one of those. A lot of other things. So it's basically reducing the fuel load, which makes it less likely for forest fires, including the tree fires. And so greenbelt fuel reduction entails not a systematic removal of trees, but systematic removal of the underbrush that creates this kind of fuel.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. The second one is there a way within this grant that we could actually add Laguna Grande Park in this?
So let me answer differently. There is funding for Laguna Grande cleanup in our existing budget. The cleanup is conducted actually annually. That has started actually last week and is continuing to do so this week. So the green belts are a way larger area. Laguna Grande Park is not designated as a green belt. I cannot explain to you why it never was designated as such, but we have funding available for the appropriate maintenance of that area as well. And it's going on right now, and it's going on annually. And as Ms. Malkin advised us, it can only be done during when the nesting season is over. And so that ended at the end of August. And since then, we have started working in Laguna Grande last week, and it continues to do so. And we'll keep continuously eyes out on Laguna Grande, knowing quite well that we had fires started. There are 2 fires in the Laguna Grande area. The latest one, I believe, was sometime in this week. So we are working very diligently there. Funding is available for that, and the funding is sufficient, in my opinion, right now.
Okay, so I appreciate that information. So since the fires have happened at Laguna Grande, I believe twice now, could that be identified as a green belt because of that now? Because it has become an issue?
I don't know if the green belt, what the green belt definition is right now. We
That's
can
what
look
I'm-
into
that's what I'm
that.
asking.
Yes, yes. I mean, we will look into that. I don't know.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Councilmember Hoffa?
I appreciate the questions Councilmember Barber was asking. And again, just kind of for the record and for the public to clarify. So when we're talking about fuel reduction, Mr. City Manager, we're not talking about removing mature, healthy trees. We're talking about removing undergrowth. We're talking about removing dead matter. And so again, just to clarify.
Yeah, and also to clarify, there was a statement made earlier that the Navy School is taking out the eucalyptus trees at the opposite next to Del Monte. They are removing dead trees, but not live eucalyptus trees.
Okay. Just to clarify, you said that staff began doing some maintenance at Laguna Grande last week. So that was prior to this last fire that started. Is that correct? Okay. So just wanted to clarify that we were getting going on it. I don't think it necessarily alleviates the concerns and fears of folks that are living in that community and what that means to them. And so I'm hoping that you can further explain the relationship with the bird nesting and the maintenance of Laguna Grande Park. Because I imagine that the thought that's going through people's mind that live there is, are we not going to maintain that space at the potential risk of their lives because of bird nesting? And so I know it's all a balance, but I just kind of, if it would be helpful to better understand the balance that we try to navigate there.
Yeah, so exactly, it's a balance, and it's a balance between the safety, the needs, the perceived visuals that we have to establish there, and the needs of the bird watchers and the Audubon Society. I can remember quite a few years ago when our trimming was shall we say, a bit way too aggressive. And the bird watcher were very concerned that during the nesting season, certain birds wouldn't return to their areas. And so, Mr. Mayor, you're pointing it out exactly the challenge that we have. We have to walk this fine path between what is desirable to create a feeling of safety for the area, and also ensuring that the interests of our neighbors are maintained, including the wishes to have really clear visuals into the underbrush, whether it's really necessary to remove it or not. There are neighbors who really want to have a clear sight on everything. And then we have to work with the with the appointed person of the Audubon Society to figure out, okay, how much can we trim? The other part of that is that part of the area is also under the maintenance of the city of Seaside. As I pointed out the other day, it's really is not important where the fires were, but the first fire was on the side of city of Seaside. But we understand that Seaside also, we connected with them yesterday, and they also have started doing their part in their area as well. And again, yes, you're completely correct. We can upset both groups, or we can strike a balance with the understanding that not everyone might be happy, and that's what we're trying to accomplish there.
So actually, I'm going to stop. I'm getting a little bit off topic, and I don't want to get us too off here, but there's, I think, definitely space to have a deeper conversation in regards to how we better manage Laguna Grande to ensure that our community feels safe. But with that, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve item number 5.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
All right, any other discussion?
Just a comment. It might be helpful in the future. I believe the mayor, you serve on the JPA.
No, it's actually Gino.
Oh, Gino. Okay. So maybe we can ask Councilmember Garcia at some point in the future when it's the right time to get us a little more in loop in terms of what's going on with Laguna Seca. I think it's one of those things that we know that it's a JPA and we know it moves slow. And we know that it's taken quite a while to get us to a better place. So maybe as we continue to monitor activities that are happening in the JPA, I think it's something that we need to put probably at a higher priority and a more frequent reporting.
Yeah, and it may be worth maybe having the GM from the Parks District coming and doing a presentation, and just so that we can have a conversation, ask questions, get a good sense of what's going on, and
it might be helpful. And I heard from somebody that that called me actually about Laguna Grande as a result of some of the fires that we all know about, that they were fortunately with professional fire responses put out very quickly. I know our police department's been out there as well, but there's a general misunderstanding that the Laguna Grande to Canyon del Rey is ours. So I think the public needs that education piece to know all of the different partners that form that JPA and know where our jurisdictions are and where other jurisdictions are. And so it's a beautiful spot, lots of birds there, and worth preserving, but there are a lot of partners that come into play. So I think it's important to be able to always turn to be able to tell those that are curious about, well, why aren't you taking care of this? Well, that's not ours, and that's another city. But we'll take care of what is our jurisdiction, and we'll certainly take care of our responsibility in the JPA.
I appreciate your comment. I know that there's new folks in the neighborhood or folks that may not be aware. So I think it is important to help educate the public and let them know the dynamics and the relationships that exist there. But I also know that there are folks listening that are probably saying, it doesn't matter, we feel unsafe, right? So I just want to make sure that we loop this conversation back around when appropriate.
Yeah, and absolutely. One other comment is that whenever
So real quick, I see.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I apologize. If we could just redirect it back to the grant.
Yep.
Acceptance and award. And if you have additional comments on Laguna Grande, feel free to make those under council comments, just to keep this item on track. Thanks.
Okay, I'll do that.
You hold your thought for now.
Well, if I can remember that thought, I will hold that thought.
You should write it down because it seems like it was a good one. All right, with that, let's go ahead and do a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. And with that, we will go on to council comments.
Somebody else. Could
So why don't you start before you forget?
So my thought about that is, and as I've said any time before, is any member of the public that feels that they see something that's not right, they feel unsafe, and they believe that they need to make that phone call to reach out to communications, to reach fire or police or ambulance for that matter. Don't talk yourself out of that. It is important to respond if you see something. Certainly say something. And in the case of the Laguna Grande, there were calls to the fire department and the police department, and thankfully that was timely. So don't hesitate to reach out when you have that. I want to report to the full council. Prior week, attended along with the mayor and some other members of the staff, mainly, I believe it was our city attorney attended the conference of the League of California Cities. I wanted to just highlight a couple things to make a brief report. Anytime we go out of town on the taxpayers' dollars, I think it's important. We celebrated the 125th year of the League of California Cities. It's kind of hard to believe that the group and the advocacy for cities in California has been together officially since 1898. So that was a Wednesday through Friday. There were seminars, general session, and the seminars that I attended were homeless to housed, hosted by Mayor Mike Labar from King City. We're supposed to have voting delegates. I was designated to be the voting delegate. However, there were no resolutions, so there was no need to have that general session voting. So that was canceled. I also attended Building in Economically Challenging Times, attended the expo and the trade show. Also attended the Monterey Bay Division League California Cities luncheon, gathering of other city council members and mayors in our region of Santa Cruz, San Benito, and Monterey County. Also attended Enhancing Emergency Preparedness through through whole community collaborations and partnerships. Also attended Stop Hate, timely, how local elected officials can combat rising hate crimes and hate speech. Also attended Governance Opportunities, Ethical Considerations, attended Building Relationships Between Police Departments and the Economy and the Community. And lastly, on Friday, attended with Chrissy Dabby, the Legal Issues session. So all a good conference. Appreciated the fact that I went, and great networking and great opportunity to pick up a few things. This week, we also had a TAMSI meeting. Actually, yesterday was the rail subcommittee meeting. So I know that we have November 7th scheduled to have the executive director of TAMSI, Todd Muck, who will be coming and speaking on agenda. So I'll leave a lot of those comments, but I've asked that he appear because there's a lot of activity going on with the Transportation Authority, Monterey County. So we want to hear more about the transportation activities. And that's all I have to report, Mayor.
Okay. Who wants to go next? Councilmember Barber.
So I just want to thank everyone for being able to allow me the opportunity to go, which I'm just literally coming back from.
When'd you get back?
Now.
You just rolled up in here.
So I'm glad to see the agenda being what it is, because otherwise I'd probably be asleep.
We have closed session.
Wait, what is that?
I know.
What is that, staff? We want to add more to the agenda? What was that?
No, please.
5 more.
Oh, no, oh my gosh, please, don't put that out there. But no, it was really a pleasure and an honor to represent the city of Monterey, and in many cases represented the US, because it was a UN collaboration that was going on at that time with our city, sister city with Azerbaijan, and it was amazing. I will give pictures to Laura so that you can kind of be able to get a taste of it, how the trip went, and some other new pieces that are coming up for opportunities that we can be able to do more things with them, to be able to enrich our city even more, and to be able to build better relations. Because so much is going on even outside of the US, that so many people have a lot of the similar issues that we're dealing with, and to be able to see how other countries and other cities are handling it is amazing. And to know that that we're right in there doing some great things as well. So that was very reassuring. Heard some great things about Alan. He was there. Talk later about that, Alan.
Those
Yeah.
dinners.
But really, I appreciate the honor to be able to represent the city of Monterey, and we'll look forward to sharing that with Hans and Laura later.
All right, Alan.
Yeah, a couple things to share. Let's see, where do I want to start? I met with a group called the Skyline Safety Committee. It's a group of neighbors and residents in Skyline who their primary concern is the intersection of Skyline and Highway 68. And so came to better understand their concern with safety there. I think one of the things we may want to look at is trying to work with TMC to possibly do a traffic study there to see whether or not a traffic light would be feasible and would improve public safety there. There was someone from Caltrans there who indicated that based on the data they have at this time, there probably is a warrant for a traffic signal there, but it would require a further traffic study. And Councilman Ed, I'd like to see if I could put you in touch with this group because obviously they need to better understand TMC, and TMC would have a role in this if it is something that would move forward. Another issue I kind of wanted to put on the table is this has come up in the past. It's come to my attention again that there, maybe some neighborhood associations that are not maybe doing as much as they could in terms of outreach, communication, and elections. And talking with this city attorney, I mean, for the most part, it's like those organizations are separate organizations from the city. They kind of have their own rules and whatnot. But on the other hand, they are an important part of the city. We believe neighbors know best. And we certainly, both staff and council, give a lot of credence to what we hear from neighborhood associations. But if they're not having annual elections, that's problematic for me. So it just occurred to me, it might be something council might want to look at as far as what are our expectations. For me personally, I think a neighborhood should have an annual election and they should notice their members and do some kind of outreach to let people know about it. I think that's a kind of minimal standard. So that's about it. Thank you very much.
Okay. A couple of thoughts. So I'll start with Cal Cities. So I also attend Cal Cities. I am a board member for Cal Cities. So I had to attend a couple of board events, including our board meeting. We swore in our new president of the board, and yeah, lots of good stuff going on there. I also finished my term as the president of the LGBTQ caucus. And so now I'm the immediate past president. I can step back and breathe a little bit more, or actually not breathe, do more work as it relates to council and being mayor. And so, but just really proud of the work that we're doing there to help organize LGBTQ elected officials from across the state and making sure that we can share policy ideas with one another. And one thing I do want to point out, I have shared this before, but there might be new folks listening online. And I know that a huge issue that we're really rallying behind is trying to push back against this California Business Roundtable ballot measure. It's the Taxpayer Protection and Government Accountability Act. The name can be deceiving. And so just really trying to encourage folks to keep an eye out for lies and misleading messaging around that ballot initiative, because essentially it will impact local agencies' ability to fund important and critical programs within our communities. And that includes here in the city of Monterey, the tax measure that we did, was it the sales tax?
Yeah, measure.
Oh, thank you. Yes, cannabis. That's an example of a ballot initiative that would be affected, and we'd have to revote on it. There's this whole process that we'd have to go through, and it's just a really dangerous path to go down, affecting school districts, utility districts. So just really want to make sure that folks are aware of that. And the council has wrote a letter of support unanimously supporting Cal Cities' effort to fight that. Okay, so that's Cal Cities. Then I'll jump to, I just want to actually jump really quick to Laguna Grande. I think I try to put myself in the position of people that live there, and I can understand that yes, in an emergency, absolutely. If you notice something, say something. And in all likelihood, somebody's probably going to see something before property is damaged. But who knows what the conditions might be in a certain circumstance that maybe somebody didn't see it and there's high winds and, you know, it moves very quickly. I mean, we saw what happened in Maui and maybe the conditions might be a little bit different in this space, but we just don't know. And I imagine folks living in that neighborhood and adjacent to Laguna Grande Park, whether it's our property or not, are concerned about their safety. They shouldn't have to wait until the emergency happens for them to feel safe in where they live, particularly being on the part of our town that it exists in. It's lower income individuals. And so it could be an equity issue. And I just want to make sure that we're providing safety and security for everybody in our community. And then the last piece I'll get to is Monterey One Water. I represent the city of Monterey on that agency. A couple of things happened at our last board meeting. First, we approved the construction contract for the injection well phase 4. So there was two parts of the expansion project. There's the actual expansion of the Pure Water Monterey facility, and then there's an additional injection wells. I updated you all about this before, but again, for folks that maybe didn't hear the previous update, we had already approved the expansion of the Pure Water Monterey facility, but the phase 4 part was deferred. So we finally approved the construction contract for that. So everything has been approved and is moving forward with all elements associated with the expansion. And the report that they shared with us, they have a Gantt chart that they share with us every board meeting, shows that they will be done. I think it was by November of 2025, or it could have been September, October, somewhere in the fall of 2025. And I just want to make a point about this a little bit more, because there are folks that are concerned about public projects and how they always take longer to complete. But there's language built into this contract where the contractors will be fined for every day that they go over. So they're motivated to get the project done and get it done sooner, because the sooner they get it done, the less they have to expend on the cost of their staff, and they still get the whole contract. So I'm optimistic for a rapid conclusion to that project. The other thing that we talked about was the outfall agreement with a negotiating agreement with Cal-Am. So we have to line the outfall of basically all the water that comes out of the recycling process. It gets put into the ocean and it gets mixed with fresh water, so it meets state legal requirements. But if Cal-Am moves forward with the desal project, it's going to be a lot more. It's going to be a lot more salt associated with that, so they have to line the outfall so that it doesn't corrode. And so we approved moving forward with a negotiating agreement with that agent, or with that organization. And there's one other thing I want to say about this. They haven't, so when we approved the expansion, the water purchase agreement for the expansion, the dates of completion for the expansion weren't accurate. They were reflective of when we had initially made the agreement with Cal-Am, which was before there was delay because of things that were going on with the Coastal Commission and them trying to get additional funding for the funding funding the expansion. So because the dates are wrong, we had to send an amendment, and they hadn't signed it in months. And so part of our concern was that they were going to try to hold the expansion hostage and charge our agency for missing those deadlines. We think that they want to play ball with us, but this item was passed regarding the outfall. It was passed contingent on them signing the amendment to the agreement. So I know that's a lot, but it's an important deal that we were able to solidify. And then the last thing is the weighted vote. I brought this up at our last council meeting as well, but there's a desire by Salinas to change the weighted vote structure of the board so that they can have more representation of their community. And just to reiterate, everybody has to unanimously approve it on the board, then it goes to every agency, and every agency has to approve it, not unanimously, but we have to, as an agency, approve it. And if that happens, then the JPA could be updated. So I don't know the likelihood of that, but I just kind of wanted to keep you all posted. That conversation is ongoing. And I'm done. So with that, I will pass it to city manager for city manager reports.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Laguna Grande, we have your say Monterey website, Laguna Grande Park Plan that is updated and keeps everyone involved and informed where we are with the process. And also there's a beautiful map that shows the outlines of the area. And I just checked, we have only 7 residents signed up on that website, and I hope that after today's conversation and with the information also that there is a dedicated project website for, I think, almost 2 years now, that people sign up and they really see what's going on there. There's no secret. The other part is this week on Friday at 11 o'clock, we are celebrating an event with respect to reopening a parking lot. The waterfront parking lot was a project that we actually started earlier this year, and it became delayed through the atmospheric rivers that went across our region a couple 9 times, I believe. And then also we had a challenge with PG&E, and PG&E is very challenging also to schedule and to fix their own failed system, so that delayed the project as well. We are happy it's over. I want to thank here also all the businesses adjacent to the waterfront. They have been very patient with us. We try to keep them informed as much as we were informed, but it was a good partnership. Also, my kudos and thanks go to our engineering team as well, the construction management group that chaperoned this project through. I think it turned out to be a nice project. We have not added parking spaces. We have reduced parking spaces. And also we have a very interesting stormwater retention features there that also make sure that nothing flows to the bay that shouldn't flow to the bay. So I hope the council can attend the meeting at 11. The mayor has promised me a spirited and inspirational speech about parking lots.
No pressure. About parking lots, man, that has to go on the resume. That's going to be good. Be ready for it. And if you can, I would encourage you to ride your bike there. Maybe we could ride on a bike path together. It'd be pretty cool. I'm not sure if those that are cyclists had the opportunity to ride on the new bike path there, but it's pretty cool. I'm a little bit of a bike nerd, so I'll just stop there and move on, not be awkward. Okay. And actually, I want to make one more point that I meant to say during my comments, which is in relation to sister cities. We had a delegation from Nanao here last week that visited and got to meet the mayor from Nanao and the rest of the delegation, which was awesome. And I just think it's something to celebrate because I think it's one of our longest sister cities. And that relationship is very strong in a large part thanks to Mayor Dan Albert, who just stepped down as the president of the foundation that works to maintain that relationship. And there's been a gentleman, Dana, that has replaced him. So that work will go on. But it's just awesome. I think the takeaway for me with this experience about sister cities that makes international relations relevant at the local level is, we oftentimes think that it's a national thing. And it's important for us to develop those relations at a local level because we have folks that visit from all over the place. We have folks that move here from all over the world. And for us to be able to appreciate the differences is such an vital part of what it means to operate in this public space. So I'm just really honored that there's been so much work done to let this city. I'm proud to be the mayor of City of Monterey. Let me just say that. It's just pretty remarkable to see the foundation that's done here and all the work that's done by our staff on a daily basis that just goes unnoticed in a lot of ways. So thank you all for what you do. All right, with that, we will go to public comments on closed session. And so same thing, We have one item on the closed session agenda, which is anticipated litigation, 5 cases, transient occupancy tax audit deficiency, finding disputes with Wave Street Inn, Hotel Pacific, Monterey Marriott, Hotel 1110, and Merit House Inn. So if anybody in the public wishes to speak on that item, I ask that you identify yourself now. If you're in the chamber, please raise your hand or stand. And if you're online, please use the raise hand function. And we'll capture all those folks now, and we're going to close that here in a second. All right, it's closed, and we'll go ahead and go to the folks online since there's nobody in the chamber.
All right, go ahead, please.
So it's Esther again. I apologize. I thought that part of what was going to be in closed session was discussion on meetings, on how we were going to go forward in meetings. Is that not on the agenda?
No. So if I understand correctly, I think we're planning to do a special meeting next week, Wednesday, where that should be discussed more then.
Okay, well, sorry.
It will be an open session.
Yeah, I just want to say that I'm proud that this city council is proud of, and our mayor is proud to be our mayor. We're all very proud residents as well. And, you know, while we scream a lot over here at Laguna Grande Park about issues, that's not to say that we are disparaging.
Esther, as much as I
staff.
love your comments, I ask that you stay on the agenda item.
Yeah, that's all.
Thank you, though. We appreciate you and love you back. All righty. All righty. Anybody else?
No, that was the only hand raised.
All right, perfect. And with that, we will adjourn. Thank you, everybody.